You're still worn out, aren't you?
Golden Corral?
Yeah.
No, I paced myself. There was no 4 steaks, so I was able to really just pace myself.
So you went for brekkie?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
You didn't get your
good.
sweet 4 steaks when you went to Golden Corral?
No, this is the only time I've ever been with a different intent.
What was the intent
The intent this time
walking
was
in?
gobs of bacon.
Yeah? Okay, so that was replacing your steak.
Yeah, I mean, because when you have bacon at home,
right?
It's a pack, and you have to share it with people, and
Right.
then it's all gone.
Yeah.
And you don't get enough.
So was the goal 4 packs of bacon as opposed to 4 steaks?
I
Do you think
basically
you got
probably
close?
ate a whole pack of bacon.
Attaboy.
Did you feel the way we did afterwards, after we left?
No, I paced myself. I told you.
Yeah, but I don't know. You can start off pacing yourself, and by the end of it, realize all the horror that you've done to your body.
I mean,
Yeah.
people pace themselves during marathons, but they still end up shitting their pants.
No,
Golden Corral is a marathon.
And people shit their pants.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I didn't shit my pants. Because that would be way funnier if I did.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dane Holland,
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer.
I am Marcus. I am Electric Man.
and this is Nerd It Through the Grapevine, the podcast where 4 best friends normally, 3 best friends tonight, gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And I want to start this episode off kind of like an interview, because I'm sitting here with 2 musicians who have made things for both themselves and other people. And this week we kind of wanted to get into like sounds on screen, or, you know, the audio happening behind the action of other media, not just music itself being the focus, but it being a part of something bigger. And I think the most recent thing between you two, Marcus, I know you always have 70 projects going on at once, but the most recent one I think that just happened this past week was Austin made an intro song for a wrestler.
Yeah, my buddy Josh, he's actually he's really good at constructing stuff and using different instrumentations and Pro Tools and all that kind of stuff. And he made a theme song for a heel character named Clayton Bloodstone, the Hunter. And this guy's whole shtick is, you know, it doesn't matter if you're animal, human, it doesn't matter. You're his, like, he's going to hunt you. Like, he's basically like kind of, I don't know, like Craven the Hunter mixed in with just, I don't know, the dude from Tarzan who is also the hunter, probably also named Craven.
Probably.
I think he was. No, but it was just basically getting into that creative headspace around what Josh had created music-wise, because he sat back and he wasn't originally going to do it just to be an instrumentation. And then he was like, you know, this would be pretty good with some lyrics to it. So he asked the dude, like, he showed him some old work that we had done, you know, for Trinity Avenue, the band that I was in. He's like, you want this guy to do some vocals on your theme song? He's like, yeah. And it's neat because you just get to kind of dance around into kind of that idea of like, what do you want this? Side note, wrestling themes aren't the same as writing like songs.
No,
There's a certain
it's to hype you up for a small amount of time.
Yeah, there's a certain level of cheese to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that's why there's not many vegan wrestlers. But it's yeah, good joke.
That was solid.
Yeah. But the idea of it, the main hook of it was, in the eyes of the hunter, everything is his prey. And that was kind of the big boom that comes out. So I'm excited to get to work on that a little bit more, just because, well, I don't know, with the weather fluctuating like it is, and it being, you know, like 70 degrees one day, and then all of a sudden it's 20 degrees, and then, hey, maybe it's going to be 50 degrees. I can't get a good steady vocal anything happening right now. So I can cough. Oh, hell, I can cough better than anybody you've ever heard. You want to hear me? I'll do it in a minute. But It's but the Clayton Bloodstone, he's a super cool dude. Check him out. He's part of a wrestling circuit over in the Midwest. It's not like AEW or WWF, but it's one of the ones that are kind of like how Jerry the King Lawler and all these other guys got discovered here in the South in those kind of wrestling circuits.
Is he an Ice of Fire fan?
I'm not sure. He probably is. I mean, he's a wrestler, so he probably uses Icy Hot a lot.
I mean, that could almost count.
Well, when
Just
you
didn't
were,
know his Bloodstone was something
yeah.
that you wouldn't necessarily know from the show, but book fans would know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Was Bloodstone also in the recent Marvel?
Is that Bloodshot?
No. It was the horror one, the one with the wolf, the wolfman, the werewolf.
Oh,
Werewolf by
Morbius.
Night.
Yeah,
Werewolf by Night.
Oh, Morbius, Marcus.
Yeah,
Werewolf by
Bloodstone was the name of the family, and
It might have been.
I think it was.
It might have been.
I'm not super familiar with that part of Marvel, but
I seen that movie one time. And
when you were in the process of writing the lyrics, is all the information you had when writing it like his persona, just that base level of his persona, or did they say like his fighting style, or what all information did you have whenever you were writing the lyrics for it?
It's basically just this is the character he's wanting to portray. This is the backstory of the character and why he is the way he is. And it starts off with like a big lion's roar, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's, what is that, like? It's not ominous. That's not this, because it's like, I think ominous and it's real low and kind of creepy and stuff like. I'm thinking it's more, I don't know, drama-centric, I guess, with the dun dun dun, and it just, I don't know. But his backstory was given to me with barely anything going on to it, because I didn't get like super character history or like, what are your plans for your character in the future or anything else like that. It's like, hey, I've got this character that's like a mixture of Cravens. You want to make a theme song? Okay, I'll do that.
It'd be really cool if after you make the song and he hears it, all of a sudden he creates more of a backstory for his character based on what you wrote for the song itself. I feel like he doesn't have a lot of an idea about the backstory. He just needed some shtick, like you said, to
want it
stand out.
I want it to be like the 90s Raw is War WWF. They had something in there called a team called the Brood. And they had like Gangrel and Edge and Christian. They were like vampire-esque. And they had powers and all this stuff. So, seeing people with powers in wrestling is really cool, because they get to try to make it convincing while they're in the ring that they've got these powers. For him, I want him to have an eye patch, like a really cool eye patch, that if it gets ripped off, it actually unleashes the beast within, and him have like a cat eye.
Cool.
Contact lens.
That's cool.
That's cool.
I like this.
I want that.
Yeah, be that.
But, I'm not the guy. I also don't bang my body up to celebrate the wrestling sport and make people, get hyped for me hurting myself.
Or it could just be a paint. Just paint like the third tiger eye on his forehead.
Yes, to where it's always watching.
Yeah.
But who knows when it'll come out.
Yeah.
Like your background with wrestling, like you've watched wrestling your whole life, or at least up until the last probably 10 years, I would say.
Yeah, there was a portion in my life that I had more wrestling T-shirts than I had any other kind of clothing.
But having that background surely helps with you writing this, because you've experienced all these intro songs for wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they used to put out CDs. They used to put out like
Wait, really?
compilations. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because you'd have all their theme songs and everything put onto the CDs for you to be able to just enjoy your favorite wrestler's theme song.
Yeah, but then they ruined them all, though. The early 90s themes were epic.
I liked Vince McMahon's thing. No chance in hell you've got. No chance. Do you remember that?
No, that was one of the ones I probably skipped. I went for the dark, brooding, powerful character. I went for the magic characters.
Like Sting?
Undertaker, Kane. I liked all their music. I liked their aesthetics better. It's just, that's just more my style. I like that.
Well, see, now like Chris Jericho in the AEW, he also has his band called the what?
It's called Fozzy.
Fozzy.
Not like my dad with a U, Fuzzy.
With an O.
It's with an O, Fozzy.
But he wrote his own theme music for wrestling. Yeah, so his band is playing that music like for his intro, and it's pretty funny, the meta behind it, because the whole stadium is singing his song that he wrote for himself to come out there, but it's also very in character for someone like him, who is a person that's completely full of themselves, and that's the heel that he plays in the ring too. So it's like a meta situation, but it works really well. So I'm
who wouldn't want to
excited
write their own
for that.
theme song?
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Absolutely.
And
I
never
wouldn't trust anybody else to do it.
I never have my own theme song in my own head.
No,
There is a condition to where people do hear music all the time as if their life is set to a musical score.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would hate to see if that was my life, because what if it was just like Peter Griffin's voice just humming along while you're trying to just have a good time, you know? And
I just see you clawing at your ears while you're just sitting in the living room.
That sounds cool if it was all music that you liked.
Yeah. But you don't get to choose like Mozart.
Oh,
he went
gosh.
nuts because of it.
Yeah, that
Wait,
would
really?
be awful.
That's part of him going crazy, was he was hearing music in his head at all times, even when not playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. He had
That sounds like a myth. I can't help but say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you could be completely right. I have
Well,
no
not
idea.
like I can-
It just sounds
not-
like one of those.
not like I can text him.
You can call
I
him.
mean, that's basically what living regular life is. You walk into any store, anywhere, and they are living set to a soundtrack, and it's Garbo.
Yeah.
Oh, especially right now.
With Krampus on
Jingle
the
bells,
way.
jingle bells, jingle bells. Or Barbara Streisand.
Martha Streisand.
Martha Stripesand and her jingle bells.
Gosh. Let's not get into that.
Please no.
Mariah Carey and her "All I Want for Christmas Is You."
I don't care about whistle tones.
she
Give
come-
me the. Who cares? It sounds awful.
Just put Trans-Siberian Orchestra on repeat and call it a day.
I'd rather hear a random person play a piccolo than Mariah Carey's whistle tones.
We do have a lot of nerds that listen to this that like Dragon Ball Z, so you're going to need to confirm to them that you're not talking about Piccolo, the Dragon Ball Z character.
Correct.
You're actually talking about a wind instrument.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the
What
mini
a traditional instrument.
Yeah.
Yes.
the mini flute, right?
Sure.
To the layman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mini flute. Because everybody
People who don't know what they're talking about. I'm just kidding.
Marcus, what has your experience been making music scores for stuff? What all have you scored?
Well, generally, my cousin's movies. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but I've at least tried to do it before, which is a lot. A lot of people probably haven't. But I don't know. I mean, music is kind of set up to be like to reflect emotions. I mean, there's the happy chords, the sad chords, your majors and minors. I mean, you just gotta just like with any song, you just gotta find the right emotion. And not to say that I'm good at that. It's just it is kind of an art form in itself. Like, yeah, you got to be good at music, but you've also got to be good at making the music look good.
Well, in being able to read a situation and
Yeah.
to read a moment and to
Right.
feel emotion from something that doesn't already have music to it. Because I feel like that would be a difficult part, because when I watch something, it already has the music there, so it's already adding on to the emotion of the scene. But you're the one creating that advanced version of that emotion. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So is that, I guess, is it difficult to see? Because what you
I
did
would say,
probably,
yeah.
you would see a scene, you would watch the scene, right? And then you would reflect and then write the music and plug it in and see if it worked. Is that how that works?
Yeah, and really, you can just start with a chord. I mean, a lot of times, it just depends. Like if you're trying to build suspense, I hear a lot of like I'm watching 1899 on Netflix right now. It's the creators of Dark.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's actually really good. The first two episodes are pretty good. But it's like set in 1899, so
spoiler.
early Industrial Revolution. But yet they're using like this really sci-fi, synthy, like modern, mind-bending soundscapes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't explain it really well, but it's just about a style. I mean, it's just like any piece of art. It's I've forgotten my main point. I'm
Well, with that
rambling
kind of music, because that's a different genre than what the show on the surface is. So when you add that type of music to it, as a viewer,
It's
you
going
know
to-
something else is happening. Like not
Yeah.
just what you're watching, something
Exactly.
else is going on.
It's cluing you in to
Yeah.
that this is some sort of alternate dimension
Yeah.
or alternate world. It's setting up the fact that this is going to be more mind bendy or just like horrifying. Definitely.
And that's just by adding a certain tone or a certain instrument. Like that's
Or a
crazy.
phrase.
That something that small can have that big of an impact on something that you're watching.
Yeah. Well, and then you get into the idea of like themes, or I guess they call them motifs in music, where you'll have just a series or a phrase of notes that repeats throughout a piece or throughout an entire orchestra or film score that signals a character or an idea, and that's when we get your theme songs for your characters in movies. I mean, because most movies have themes and motifs in the music where it's like, okay, well, this character just did something heroic, so we hear the blah 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 blah.
Or whenever you turn on Game of Thrones, like you're expecting the Game of Thrones music to start. I believe the first episode of House of the Dragon did it not have the music in the intro? I think it was different, didn't it? Did it have the music?
No, actually, you're right.
The second episode
had the music.
But the first didn't, and it felt off.
Yeah.
Because going into it, we didn't know if they were going to use the original theme or not.
Right.
Because it's different. It's something different, and they're trying to distance themselves from the original show. Mm-hmm. But it's that part of the show is so iconic, and it was the part that repeated. It was there every single episode. It's a recurring character in the show.
Yeah. And so is that map, I'll argue.
Yeah.
That map.
Oh, yeah,
and
that
in this new
style
one,
of it.
in this new one, it's just so skippable.
It is, because it's not changing. I don't think it was changing throughout the...
I don't think so either.
I
It's
never
just not as
noticed a
cool.
change.
It's not as cool. You're not getting near as the information
Right.
that you would get from the earlier intro.
Right. Because
But
as
it's the
things
same
would
music
happen.
and it's epic. But I just don't understand. I feel like they should have gave Ramin another shot. And not to say they didn't. He's doing the music, all the music for it. And he incorporates that theme because that is the Song of Ice and Fire. See, and that's what a good composer like him will do, is like he understands the source material is titled A Song of Ice and Fire, and he creates that, and he uses the separate elements of it separately sometimes to create a new piece. Blam, 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 blam. That's all over the score, but you wouldn't always recognize it.
It hides itself. He hides it within things.
Yes, and you can change the
builds
rhythm
around it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's and that is why he's so good.
That's brilliant to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we see it in other places too, because I've noticed it like with Superman themes, which we'll get into here in a bit, to where the original John Williams Superman theme is referenced or hidden or used in different moments, like of the Man of Steel theme for Superman now. And there's even a moment in Man of Steel where Superman is kind of lifting himself up after having this like pressure being pushed down on him. With the pressure coming down on his face, it almost looks like Christopher Reeve. And then the music within the Man of Steel theme, you hear the John Williams, just a little bit of it blend in with the new Man of Steel theme song. And it's just like everyone gets these goosebumps, all because of just a few notes of the original Superman theme that was so iconic for so long. And for Hans Zimmer to realize how much that meant and how much it means to the character. Because Superman's a comic book character. There's no music. There's nothing there to accompany Superman.
Plus, it's probably this is another thing that drives me crazy about these masterminds of music, is that they can take such a simple little phrase and just squeeze it for all the emotion that you could ever possibly get out of it. It's like it just makes, I don't know, sometimes as a musician, you just want to keep getting more complex and more intricate. And it's like, really, you just got to nail the melody. If you nail the melody, you've got what you're talking about.
The John Williams Superman theme which I love Hans Zimmer's as well. Like, it's really good. I think it really suits the tone of everything that's happening around it. But my top three on those for the Superman, just Superman, John Williams, and then the animated Superman with the
Right. And then the third being Hans Zimmer.
the third being Hans Zimmer.
Okay. See, Hans has worked his way to the top for me because when I hear it, like I just goosebumps every single time. It doesn't matter where I'm listening to it or what. I actually have samples of some superhero themes and of the ones you just mentioned for Superman. So what I did was I went through some of the DC big three superheroes of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and I went through the timeline of their different themes and put snippets of the main portion of each of those behind one another, so you can see the progression as time has gone on of how epic these songs are for these characters. And I kind of want us to talk about why, because you just mentioned you have a top three and in a certain order. I'd like to see why that is, and if it has to do with the iconic nature of the song or the technicality and the fullness and just the musicality of the song, because those are two different things as to whether maybe something simple is going to be a whole lot more effective and iconic than something grand, for a whole orchestra. You could have three notes. I mean, just think of the Jaws theme, the dun. That alone, if that were more complicated, I don't think it would be as iconic as it is. I think it would be lost. But that alone, you just hear the sounds. Austin, if he's behind me anywhere and makes the two notes, dun, I know he's trying to put his finger near my rectum, and that's whenever I tighten up and I run away. But that's all he has to do is just two notes.
It's the butt shark. You always get a warning.
It's awful. It's awful. So with the Superman themes, the order that I have these in, just for us to listen to the different, the changes throughout, is Max Fleischer from the 40s animations. I believe those would be the serial. Were those the serials that we talk about, the 40s? I think so.
Maybe.
I don't remember. But so that was the original cartoon version of that. And then there's the second version of the animated Superman theme, which was by Shirley Walker, which, Austin, you mentioned was your second favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And then John Williams, which everyone knows, and then Hans Zimmer as well with Man of Steel. And I have a bonus one after those that's mainly for me and Austin, but it's for everybody else to be able to hear too. But here is how the Superman themes have gone throughout time. And we can talk during this too if you guys want to, but just kind of listening to it and seeing where it is. And if you want me to stop after one, let me know.
Oh yeah, fanfare. Yeah. More powerful than a locomotive.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane.
It's Superman.
And that also sounds kind of like a parade. It's the grand thing. During that time, if you're going to get a lot of entertainment, a parade is a good way for everybody to get pumped up and excited and hear that fanfare sound to it.
They used to go to the movies to watch TV.
Yeah, yeah, they did. And now, I don't even want to do that anymore now.
That's what serials were, basically just television shows that were released in theaters.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
It is, but it's all they had.
It's still dumb.
It's all they had. But that was their example of the power and might of Superman. That was the sound to them in that time, what it meant to be Superman. That's when you look at him, you hear this, and that's what they played.
Look, Johnny, there's Superman.
Yes.
Great.
What is Superman, Daddy?
Great Caesar's ghost. You've never heard of Superman.
Well, here, let me show you.
And then in the 90s, we had the Superman animated series to grow up with. And this is how the animation theme changed from the 40s to this. So more orchestra, but there's still a little bit, it's like a little memory of the old one in there with just a couple sounds. I can't point it out specifically, but
it's the marchy kind of percussion and the
staccato notes that everybody's playing on the
whatever.
It's not as long and drawn out.
They're more similar than they sound, which is weird to say, I think. But if you break it down, like you said, if you listen to the drums, it sounds like it would be in a marching band, like part of it. So I think that's really interesting of how the first one sounds kind of funny and ridiculous.
And what
and
era was that
outdated.
from?
This was the 90s Superman animated series cartoon.
Okay. So not John Williams.
Correct. No. Next is John Williams. This was from the Superman, the movie, Superman 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah, this is when we get to the good stuff.
This is where we start to get to the good stuff that makes you feel things.
Yes.
I mean, and the more you witness him, the more the crescendo builds and the larger he becomes, and he's just more than human. And of course, you want to listen to the whole song whenever you just hear that little part, but I think legally I can only play a certain amount.
Yeah. But it also, like, kind of like, classical people are going to get mad at me, but I don't know the name
That's fine.
of the classical piece, but it's the intro to 2001 Space Odyssey.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ric Flair's theme.
And it's got that kind of quality to it right there at the beginning, just enough to be like still that he's like otherworldly and he's alien and he's like not from this earth.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that aspect of it.
They even still used it in the DC League of Super Pets, the John Williams scoring for the Superman theme and for the Krypton theme at the very beginning. And while they were doing that, I was like getting all teary, and I was like, "Dane, you gotta come see this!"
Yeah. The Superman, just what Superman has meant to me in my life and growing up with him and him being the hero to me. Like the music, it makes me feel things.
Yeah. Well, I think it just does. I mean, the music alone does.
Yes, absolutely.
Without the images.
Because
but then you add the images and it's like this explosion of everything, all kinds of different emotions.
But that's also in the success of these themes is you can see the moments in your head of Superman. You can see moments that you've never witnessed on screen of Superman to that music. You can read the comic and hear that music in the background because it is perfect. John Williams, if it wasn't him doing it, who knows if we would even remember the theme song anymore. It's the perfect person for the job. And yeah, the perfect song for the character too. Now, like I mentioned, blasphemous, yes, but the Hans Zimmer version of the Superman theme in Man of Steel is not as iconic as John Williams to me, but is just a more epic version of a theme song for a character. So not as iconic, but epic, like more epic. So, and here's the example of that. You see him flying higher and faster, like in my head. Like when I hear that music, the building and going higher pitched, and you hear the percussion in the background, kind of reminiscing on the older versions of the song. Mm-hmm. And to me, I see every moment of that movie flash before my eyes, listening to that theme. Not as iconic. You cannot play that for someone who's not watched Man of Steel and them go, yes, that is Superman's theme song. You can't do it. People don't know that. You can have people who've never watched a Superman movie hear Superman's theme, and they've heard it. They know that's Superman. So not as iconic, like I said, but epic-wise, to me, that just, it makes my whole body just goosies whenever I hear it. And it also has to do with how much I love that movie, too, and Cavill is Superman. So it's a whole lot of things outside of the song making it better for me.
Right.
But that's where you have the personal connection with even the bands you listen to that have nothing to do with other media. You have a personal connection to them that make it more than what it is and more that was even intended to be, possibly. Mm. But this one is more for me and Austin because of how much we loved Smallville growing up. And for us, anytime we hear this song, because this is actually from a band that it's a regular. What would this be called? This is just a song.
This is a song.
It's a song.
This
it's
is a
not
song.
theme music. It's a song.
They said this song looks like it'll be good. It's by a band called Remy Zero.
Remy Zero.
Yes.
Somebody save me.
No.
Did you ever watch Smallville at
Nope.
all?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay, so when you hear this song, it means nothing. When Austin and I hear this song, we want to cry.
We get hyped. We cried like two grown men should for the series finale.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Always
here
hold
is
on
that
to
because
Smallville.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners possibly have never heard this before.
Somebody save me. Let your warm hands break right through. Somebody save me. I don't care how you do it, just stay. Come on, I've been waiting for you.
It's not epic. It's not.
It's all right.
It's not iconic. It's not epic. It's nothing. It's just a song.
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that because I thought you would just absolutely hate it.
Just as soon as that song would come on, like say I was anywhere and I would hear that song, I would rush to find where it was coming from. Mm-hmm. Like nowadays, you got to lure kids into your van with free Wi-Fi signal on the side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will go. I will get into
that's what you know. But used to be, it would be you could lure me with having that song playing. And I'd be like, "You watching Smallville? Wait, what's this hood for?"
So that is the examples of Superman's themes and how they've changed over time, and they're all very different from one another. The Smallville one's kind of in its own category, but as far as theme music goes, from the animated series and the movies, they've built upon one another in some way. But over time, the simpler things almost don't work anymore because of the grandeur that's happening on screen.
Well, and just the modern tools to make music too. I mean, with everybody talks about how revolutionary all the CGI and all that is. I mean, that's the same thing for music. I mean, pretty much every song you hear nowadays on the radio is like perfectly tuned, Now, some people, feel like that's starting to make music sound just procedural. I don't know. That's just too perfect, too sweet, and I'm definitely one of those people depending on what style of music I'm listening to. But there's just lots of new ways to produce music too. And it sounds bigger and better and crazier and more alien. So yeah, you can just conjure up so many more soundscapes and feelings and emotions with all the modern tools that we have at our disposal.
Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, by far my favorite, just punchy in the face superhero sound that they've got
Absolutely.
going on. Like, it's just,
Oh yeah, and that, you haven't even seen my notes, but that's the next one I wanted to play in between Superman and Batman.
Well, we just
because
did it. You don't
I only
need to hear
have.
it now.
Oh, they do need to hear it. It's because with hers, she mainly only has two popular ones of herself because she's not had as much media as the other two have had, and not as many people doing the score and themes and stuff. But it wasn't always that sound.
Wonder Woman.
Yes, because the one that we just absolutely cannot get enough of is by Rupert Gregson Williams.
Thank you.
He's the one that does the epic one you'll hear in a second, and the old school one is by Charles Fox, and that was the original 70s theme. And here, just listen to the evolution of this song, because it's even more drastic than Superman's throughout, his entire time from the late 30s till now.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman.
Yes, just getting right to the point.
70s.
All the world is waiting
Straight up.
for you and the power you possess.
But that's perfect for a 70s TV show, like leading into Wonder Woman. How could that be better? I don't think it could.
That honestly sounded more like the intro to the Cleveland show than "My name is Cleveland Brown." It sounded more like the intro to the Cleveland show than something that I would associate with a superhero.
Yeah.
But all the superheroes back in the 70s that had their shows like that, they were super cheese.
Right,
yeah.
because they're thinking like, well, audiences aren't going to go for like a Amazonian warrior princess.
Right.
We've got to make her like a modern 70s woman.
Yes. And that was the audience. Like you said, the audience drove them to write that a certain way. And plus just what was popular at the time of sound. And I guess what they saw when they looked at a Wonder Woman comic book is they're like, this is the kind of thing we're thinking going into this. But what we see and hear now when we see Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot on screen being awesome, being the Amazonian warrior princess, this is what it sounds like now.
So cool.
And that's showing us that simplicity still works. I mean, that's a guitar riff that I think you've mentioned in the past. Very easy to do if you know how to play guitar. And just those heavy running through the jungle drums. That's it. That's all it takes to do something epic like that. So it doesn't always have to be a full orchestra doing something incredible. It could be something as simple as a little guitar riff. And just the first time we heard it, whenever she showed up in Batman v Superman, it was one of the more epic parts of the whole movie. Was her theme showing up with her, and the first time we had seen a modern Wonder Woman on screen. And
I think when she's fighting Doomocalypse or whatever his name is.
Doomsday.
Then when she's fighting him, I think it plays, and it's like it's got all those drums hitting with the melody, like and it's like it's so heavy,
and punches are being thrown like as those drums are hitting, and just
I mean, terrible movie, but cool moments.
It wasn't terrible.
It was terrible.
It wasn't
How
terrible.
about-
There's a better version of it that wasn't in theaters.
I've got it. Cool movie, terrible moments.
Don't speak for me.
He just did, though.
Yeah, well,
He just did it.
I'm letting the people listening know that I
Okay.
will not change my opinion due to peer pressure.
Fair enough. But that version of the Wonder Woman theme is one of my favorite superhero themes ever that I've ever heard. And it's simple and modern at the same time, and it just works. So moving on from those two to Batman, which over time has had very iconic and epic music, but it had to start somewhere. And the somewhere that it started is very iconic for people who have never watched the 66 Batman 66 universe?
Yeah.
Because it was in the 60s.
This is my dad.
Yeah. And there are many people who have never watched an episode of that, but they've heard this theme song, but one way or another. And it was written by Neil Hefti. And then that led to like Batman Returns, Batman the Animated Series by Danny Elfman that we grew up with. And then Hans Zimmer, just as well as the one who did Man of Steel, he also did the Dark Knight trilogy, which preceded Man of Steel. It came out before Man of Steel did.
I cannot tell you what the Dark Knight trilogy Batman music sounds like.
Me either.
Nope.
And I just took the clip like an hour and a half ago and put it into this, and
It's
I still
good.
can't remember. It's good. It's epic, but I don't think it's iconic.
It's not got
No,
Well-
maybe not.
it ain't got no stick to it.
No. But the
But
new
it works.
one,
It works for that universe, I think.
the new one from the Batman, it to me is reaching iconic level because
I don't know if
when I hear it,
remember that one.
ooh. But the thing is, it has such a build. We're going to get to it in a second, but I just wanted to get
Yeah.
who
I think
wrote,
for me-
who wrote these.
Batman is the animated series music.
Danny
Yes.
Elfman.
Oh yeah, Danny Elfman.
And Kevin
nailed it.
Conroy just passed away the week
I know.
before last.
The
and
voice
that's-
of Batman.
That sucks. He was in everything Batman related that was animated for, oh man, what,
Yeah.
20 years?
Oh yeah,
No, what year is it? Almost 30?
yeah.
Did they steal his voice like they stole James Earl Jones's?
James Earl Jones gave his voice. There's
Oh.
a difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But no, they're probably not going to take Conroy's. But yeah, Danny Elfman wrote Kevin Conroy's soundtrack of his life as the Batman theme. But the newest one in The Batman was written by Michael Giacchino, probably
Giacchino.
Giacchino.
He wrote the.
I was very close.
we got to talk about him in a minute. Remind me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We'll get to the end of it. But here is Batman throughout time of his different themes that we've seen on screen. Very similar to the Wonder Woman style
Surf rock
song. Yeah, surf rock. Thank you. Well, they even did like a surfing like thing in that show to where he's in his bat swim trunks and doing the fake surf, which was super popular at the time, and it worked at the time, and it's still iconic, even though it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's made
just
of
saying his name over and over again.
Yeah, it's made of cheese. It's just it's like the moon. It's just made of cheese.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes, it is. But then that led to the 90s animated series
give
that
me
was
some Elfman.
airing at the same time like Superman, the animated series, was.
So good.
Once again, the progression from that like music of the era to an orchestra doing it, to where the popularity of these characters has grown on screen to the point where they're like, this deserves an orchestra. Like, this needs a score just like a fantasy movie would have, or something of that grandeur.
And I'll tell you what, like, that just sounds like Gotham City to me.
Yes.
Like, it's like, that's the music of Gotham City. And they do like a really cool job of certain parts of it, like sounding like that kind of swanky New Yorker kind of jazzy, loungy feel to it as well. But there's this dark overtone with, where you feel like a gargoyle sitting up there and watching some horrific crime happen or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then who comes to save you?
Batman!
Oh, the evolution of that. Oh, but yeah, growing up in the 90s with that, I'm with you. Anytime I see Gotham, I hear that music
so
and
good.
think Batman is in the shadows somewhere watching. So that evolves into Hans Zimmer's
Okay, because
New Age.
did Danny Elfman do the live action movies
Yes,
too?
Superman, or
Because he was
Batman,
always
Batman
with Tim
Returns.
Burton.
Mhm. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Danny Elfman, and then that goes into Hans Zimmer with this. And just like before, I mean, how do you follow up Danny Elfman and also John Williams? Hans, it's like handing off a torch to the new age, the new John Williams. This is like, well, this is your John Williams now, is Hans Zimmer. But this is his version of Batman, which I always forget what it sounds like. I think that obviously pulled from the animated series version because I just hear it within that, like
I
embedded.
think there's even
in
times where
there.
it's like blah 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 or something. Like I feel like they do that at times, but maybe I'm just imagining it too. I don't know.
The vibe is there though. I mean, that's very Gotham.
Yeah.
It sounds very Gotham, but
Yeah.
it's not iconic
Yeah,
to me.
it's
It doesn't-
forgettable.
It
It's
is
not his
very
best.
forgettable, which is strange to me to think that something even as Batman is so much more memorable and iconic than this by the epic Hans Zimmer, but it just kind of fell flat. But for me, that trilogy of movies fell flat to me as well. So I think the music isn't going to stick around with me if I didn't have any attachment to the films themselves. But that leads us to The Batman, the newest on-screen version of him with Robert Pattinson. And it's very long. The buildup is very long, and it starts off very low, but I can't play the music for that long. So I kind of had to pick it at a part where it starts to build up. But the buildup it's so long because in the movie, you see his progression of becoming Batman, and it's a long, slow progression of him being able to do what he does and become the iconic character he is. And I think this song in its fullness represents that really well. So if you ever get a chance to look up the Batman theme, the new one, please listen to the whole thing. But here's a snippet of it to where you get a kind of the vibe that it has. Ooh, chills. Ooh, chills. That could also be from how much I enjoyed the movie as well. But there's a build-up and a story within that music of him becoming epic.
So they've probably been building up that motif the whole movie.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely did. And there's moments in it that you hear that smaller version of it, which you didn't get here, but it's basically just that dun, 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 dun. And it's very slow and drawn out, but then it builds up to that version of it. And it is, to me, it's like hearing the Hans Zimmer version of the Superman song, like seeing him flying higher and faster. In this, I see Batman getting stronger and understanding more and getting more into his role and becoming more iconic for Gotham City. There's the story of Batman within the new theme song for him that I did not get with Hans Zimmer's Dark Knight trilogy at all. But this new one, I think if the movies continue to be as good as they are, it's going to work itself into a more iconic song for Batman, I think, especially for people that are witnessing Batman now as opposed to growing up when we did and having already that iconic animated music.
Right.
I think it will be iconic for some time to come if these movies keep coming out and are still solid.
Yeah.
The way this last one was. But with superheroes, when I think theme song, because of the type of nerd that I am, superheroes are immediately what come to mind, and those big three are the ones that definitely do. But of course, I mean, whenever you think of Marvel, I didn't have any examples pulled up and downloaded from Marvel, but with Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Like, that one's stuck in your head. But then again, I can't think of any of the Spider-Man songs from the movies, like other than the
Vindicated, I am selfish, I am wrong.
Yeah, Dashboard, baby.
Actually, what was the first one? And they say that a hero can save us.
Yes.
Not gonna lie, that's a pretty cool song.
It is cool.
Pretty cool song.
It is cool. And so is the Dashboard song. But I won't put that word in your mouth. But that's a soundtrack. As far as like a theme music for the character in the Spider-Man movies, I don't know, man. I don't have it in my head.
Yeah.
But the classic Spider-Man one, I do. And then we have X-Men that we grew up with as well from the animated show. And they even played a bit of that in the Doctor Strange. Turn your mic on.
Sorry, I coughed. They played it in Multiverse of Madness, and they also played it in the finale of, what's her name?
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
Of the X-Men theme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I want to hear it.
Yeah. It's just that little snippet of da-na-na-na-na-na.
Yeah,
That's it.
Well, because it appears that your blood's not the exact same as the rest of us, and it's not this either. It's some kind of weird mutation.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's how iconic the X-Men theme is that you just have to hear that very first part of it.
Well, when are we going to get some Marvel X-Men?
And you see that.
Never.
Yeah, we are.
Never.
Yeah, it's coming.
I don't know.
We're not.
I think maybe 2024 or something.
That's
like
got to
that,
be
but
like they got to build that up like they did the Avengers. I think.
If I believe everything I see on the internet, then Patrick Stewart and
Ian McKellen
are going to reprise their roles as Xavier and Magneto in the Deadpool movie with Wolverine.
Really?
Yeah. If I believe what I see on the internet.
They deserve their own movie.
Well, I mean, they
I
got
want
him.
them to be
They
in
already got
Deadpool.
him.
But you got to
They got a movie series.
Yeah, but I guess you're right. But I don't know if they're bringing them back. You might as well give them their own story instead of just being side characters.
But maybe we just got to watch and find out.
I guess we'll see. But sometimes I actually sometimes really I have to be in the mood, but I really do like to listen to soundtracks from my favorite composers. Of course, Ramin Djawadi is the best of all time. He's a mad genius. But of course, we all know what happened with the television show.
Yep.
But still, like, it can be really stirring to listen to the Night King
Yeah.
and just imagine your own ending to that episode. Whatever you imagine, I promise it won't be good. It won't be good because that music is chilling. It will freeze you to death.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I don't know, it always gives me this deep sense of loss, which is awesome, but that also could be just because the show was awful.
Right.
And just the sounds, all the beautiful music just makes it seem like a dread truth has just been discovered. I don't know, he's a madman. But it's really crazy because he also did World of Warcraft.
The terrible, awful, like hot
Yes.
stinking fecal garbage film.
Yes, and if you listen to the music, it sounds like it would be just on loop on the loading screen. It's just phoned in and generic. Like he went for that. Like he went for like just a pale imitation of himself. Like
That's so strange.
I know if you listen to him like back to back, like listen to some Game of Thrones music,
Yeah.
and then listen to the World of Warcraft soundtrack. Also, you mentioned Michael Giacchino.
Uh-huh.
I've got to mention Lost when I think of him. I mean, I think he won for like Up. Do you
Oh, he did
movie
Up?
Yes.
Really? I didn't know.
But before that, he did Lost, and I just think he nailed Lost. Lost had, to me, some very iconic motifs and themes, but he just gave it all this really unique feel, and like even because they bought a big giant plane in pieces and just threw it out on the desert or on the beach in Oahu. And he took pieces of it and like would make instruments out of it and stuff. And so he really got into creating this very unique sound for Lost soundtrack. And you've always got the trumpet falling out of the window, like the wah, like for the ending, like cliffhangers and stuff. He really made you feel something in Lost too, I feel like.
So Giacchino is the one that also did the Batman.
Cool.
The new one.
Yeah, well, Giacchino's another one to keep your eye on. He's good. He's really, really good.
Yeah,
Oh,
obviously. He made me feel things in the Batman, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
There was another Spider-Man that I just thought of. You had the 90s cartoon Spider-Man that also found out that they couldn't kill anybody on that cartoon, and they couldn't punch anybody on that cartoon
I'm sorry?
on Fox Kids.
There weren't punches?
There were no punches in the Spider-Man,
That
the
can't
animated
be
series.
right.
Yep. Absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, the Spider-Man, the radioactive Spider-Man, you remember all that?
I do now, but earlier when I was trying to think of it, I couldn't place it in my head, but now I remember it.
Yeah.
So-
And then U2 actually did the theme song for Spider-Man for for a later series. I think it's called Ultimate. It might have been Ultimate Spider-Man or something like that. But yeah, U2 had done work for that, which was neat.
So Giacchino, you said someone to look out for. That's going to
Yes.
be a name that
Well,
we
and obviously
recognize. And Ramin. These
Yeah.
are names that we should, even people who aren't super into music, should at some point hear that, just like you can hear Hans Zimmer or John Williams, and that be a name that you understand.
Yeah,
Like when
you
hear
understand.
that name.
Yeah. Well, and Hans Zimmer's Dune turned a lot of heads, and I think it's got some really, really good examples of just awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good parts of it.
I mean, and surely these efforts that these composers are putting into this, enjoying the source material and understanding it, is going to produce better work. Just like if you have a writer for a show, The Witcher, if you love the source material and want to honor it and feel something whenever
Rings
you
of Power.
contain it, Rings of Power, thank you, your work is going to reflect that. You're going to be able to show this emotion with the music that comes from that character or comes from that story. like you said, the chilling feel you get from the Night King's like music.
God, it's
is
awful. It's so good though. You got to listen.
If you understand the nature of the Night King making that type of music, you're not going to stop until you get the feeling that the Night King, like this is all you can hear when you see this character. And it means so much for a composer to understand the source material, I feel. And like with Zimmer, with Dune, like you said, like whenever I watched Dune here, the score was incredible. And Hans, I think, probably enjoys Dune as a product. Like,
Oh, yeah.
to be able to write that music.
You think he probably enjoys Dune what he's doing? Marcus laughed at it.
Yay!
Yeah, I feel like I remember seeing interviews with Hans Zimmer about his work on Dune and how it's always been one that he was, he would want to try. I mean, it's just one of those foundational like sci-fi novels, and like people like Denis Villeneuve, the guy that made the movie, like it's anybody's dream job is to land something like Dune.
The iconic nature of that title in itself, and
exactly.
to be able to put a soundtrack to it or a score to it, like, that's a dream, like you said, as a nerd and a composer at the same time. But Interstellar was another one that Hans Zimmer did of the sci-fi nature that was like talked about.
I think it's his best.
Whether you like that movie or not, the score is perfect for it throughout the whole thing.
Hans Zimmer also did the new Top Gun Maverick
He did.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like he did the movie. Like it was. I love the Top Gun theme. It's because it reminds me a lot of the Justice League animated series for Justice League Unlimited. Like that. Like that's all that Top Gun is. Just continued on and more.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Did you know Hans Zimmer also composed the Lion King, like the original Lion King?
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
I thought we looked this up.
Didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who scored the Lion King?
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer did it.
Really?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. The first thing that pops up whenever I Google who scored the Lion King, it shows Hans Zimmer, and it says he didn't originally want to do the score, but his 6-year-old daughter changed his mind, so he ended up doing the Lion King score.
Well, that's iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had no idea, because when I think Hans, I think recent, like very recent stuff, because only recently has he become, I feel like this giant figure.
Oh yeah.
Was it the animated movie he had redone or the new animated
Both.
movie? Oh, he did both of them.
Both.
So he worked with Elton John on the first album, which was really neat.
He'll be doing Scar's movie as well, because I believe Scar is getting some new movie coming up, possibly.
Oh, getting a backstory on Scar?
Something like that. But he's going to continue to be involved with The Lion King, like, for things that come out in the future. But he also did Inception, and Inception is another one of those like wacky, weird concepts for a movie, and the music has to reflect that for it all to fit right.
Isn't it called Time? The famous one from that movie.
Yes, and it's
so good.
It's so good. It to me, the Inception and the Interstellar kind of feel for both of those is similar in nature.
Yeah.
But Hans, you can almost hear something and think Hans is involved with it because he has his certain style. He did the Transformers movies too, which, whatever for what they are, he had to produce something that was a mix of robotic and also epic and alien and war. I don't know. He had to mix all these different themes and genres.
Now that you're talking about
into
it,
that.
didn't he do bam bam da da dum bam da da dun dun da da dun?
He sure did.
Dun dun da da dun dun da da dun dun da da dun.
He did the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
He
so
did.
that one's the one. I mean, whether I like it as good as his other work or not, it's iconic.
No, Pirates is fucking epic. Don't get like that's. I played that in marching band in high school. We had the orchestration to it. Well, orchestration. I don't even know words. I'm sick. But we were out on the field and we were high step marching to the Pirates of the Caribbean music, and that every time I hear that, that's all I can think is like how we had our high step marches to the tune of that dun 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 dun, like perfectly in beat with the transitions between knee up, knee down, foot up, foot down.
You've never stepped so high in your life.
You don't know my life, do you?
No, I have no idea. But the torch we mentioned that Hans has kind of carried from John Williams in these certain titles. Looking back at John Williams' work, it looks like an endless list going through it. But just pulling the ones that I know and I feel most people know, with Jaws and Star Wars, of course, Superman, of course, Indiana Jones, E.T., Home Alone, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, War of the Worlds. Like, he's in all of the movies that everyone has seen.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's seen these movies. And the music from them was his doing. He's a part of all these very successful films, and surely he has something to do with the success of the films. Because without the score, the scenes don't mean as much as they do without it. And having a mind like his involved with it is incredible. And I saw behind the scenes thing whenever he was doing for
Star Wars.
the Rise of Skywalker. The last Star Wars movie he was going to do. I think he worked on the Obi-Wan show, but as far as Star Wars movies, I think he was done after the Skywalker trilogy. And
I think he's done, like, period.
Oh, is he retired from?
As far as, I mean, I could have just read the headline wrong. I don't know. Somebody else look it up.
So if he quit doing what he was doing, does that mean he could no longer maintain his composure?
Man, you're firing on all cylinders and you're sick. That's incredible.
That's just all that my brain can do
It's
right now.
really funny though.
What do you think, Tiny?
And I'm Austin Tiny Zent.
But in that recording of him orchestrating the music for The Rise of Skywalker, Mark Hamill was there to witness it. The last thing that he scored for it, and the actors for the movie, I'm pretty sure Daisy Ridley was there too with him, and they were just getting to be a part of the final piece that he wrote. And everybody was in tears. Everybody in the room. It was historic for these people because of the name that John Williams has made for himself, and with all these films and with Star Wars. Like, John Williams is the biggest name in scoring, and Star Wars is the biggest name in media in general,
pretty much.
And just having those two things paired with one another, it's history, and it'll never go away.
You'll never replicate it.
You can't.
Mm-mm.
You can't. The torch can be passed, and they can try and make their. But the thing is, like, they don't need to be replicating it. They need to be making it their own.
Yeah.
In a successful way that matches the time that the piece is coming out.
Much like The
and
Mandalorian
what it
has
is.
managed to do.
Yes,
with
it
its
has.
music.
Oh,
Its music is incredible.
Because
It's
isn't it just
so
like
good.
like Foley based kind of sound effect music? And because he's not even making anything that's crazy constructed, like charted out and stuff. Whenever he's doing those main themes, and he just playing that same instrument just in different spots.
Dude, he's doing so much.
Yeah.
He was playing like some old guitar in that theme. Dude, yeah, I've seen, like, go on YouTube and check, like, see if you can't find him making that theme. Like,
It's
if you
so
type
cool
in
to watch.
making of Mandalorian theme music, like, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that dude's on another level.
And the nature of that show being a Western and a space Western.
Oh,
it's
he nailed
space,
it.
He nailed it. It's perfect.
It's so good.
It's perfect.
And the theme where Luke came back, dude.
Yes.
And it had, like, you know, because the death robots or the death troopers or whatever were you know, engaging and activating, and you had this, like, you know, dubstep kind of like saws going off, but then when Luke comes in, you've got like this weird choir going on in the background. I don't know. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool.
Yeah.
That was crazy that Mark Hamill actually played Luke Skywalker in that.
Well, they just painted his face over him.
No. They painted his young face over his face. He was actually there.
Sour grapes.
You sure?
I'm almost positive.
He's calling sour grapes.
Oh, no.
He's calling sour grapes.
The algorithm decides all.
Al Gore rhythm.
We're getting a little off topic here with this.
Yeah.
With this whole thing.
We might
think-
have droned on too long
We
about
might
it.
have. Yeah, we might have.
We went on about the Mandalorian. I think that was the
yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah,
we
that
should probably
was the
cut
good
everything
stuff.
else out.
Yeah, we will. We'll definitely do that. So the guy who made the Mandalorian theme song, and I guess he does this. Does he do the score for it too?
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure he does. But his name is Ludwig Göransson. Does that sound right?
Something like that, yeah.
or Ludwig Göransson if you're just looking at it like that, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Ludwig.
Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. That's probably right and not. Yeah, that's probably good actually. So
Just throw a little stank on
look
it.
up that guy. I think he'll, with the success of the Mandalorian show and with how iconic he's made that theme, because that's the first time this character has been on screen. It's the first song we hear for him, and iconic right away. And that's how good it was. It's not going to get lost like the Dark Knight trilogy Batman theme. Like, this one is going to stick, and I think with the success of the show, he's going to be another name that we probably see popping up. And he's inventive, because when you watch the YouTube video or whatever it was behind the scenes, because I think there was a behind the scenes episode possibly of The Mandalorian that had him in it making the music. He's not just an old man in a suit, with a stick telling a bunch of people to make music. He's sitting like on the floor with some stuff that looks like instruments that, like you said, an old guitar, because he's like, I wanted the specific sound from this guitar to give that Western feel to it, and then blending that with this other just weird kind of synth stuff. And I don't know, it's this one dude making a score by himself.
He's actually using Cubase in some of those videos.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's what you taught me to use to edit this podcast.
Correct.
It's wonderful.
That's what I've used my whole life. But, obviously it goes, I think in a professional situation like that, it would go from Cubase to Pro Tools at some point.
Right.
Like, or some of those instruments that he is programmed in there to be a virtual instrument for his mix would then be recorded as a live orchestra. So some of those samples that he's got in there will be replaced with like actual orchestral instruments.
Okay.
Played by professionals, who can do a lot more than some of these virtual instruments can. These virtual instruments are great and they can fool you, but you've got to know a lot just to be able to program them sometimes.
So with some of this that he's made, it's almost like a rough draft for the orchestra to play over what he's done there.
Correct.
It's like a bookmark. It's
right.
Like this.
He's written
this is
it.
what I want.
Right. He's written it, and now he brings it in on paper and puts it in front of a bunch of world-class musicians, and then they interpret it.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars deserves world-class musicians.
Absolutely.
And inventive people like this.
Oh, dude,
Like,
they couldn't have picked a better guy.
No.
I mean, you roll the dice, and maybe somebody wrote something awesome too. But I don't see how you could have done better than him.
And Star Wars is known for those historical scores. I mean, even like the Jizz, like just the band inside of there. Like the people creating Star Wars had to create a band and create music for the band to be playing. Wow!
And as we like to remind people, it is called Jizz.
It is.
That's
what
the
it
actual
is.
name. That's what the man himself wanted it to be called. But I think that's a good point to finish on. So thank you all for listening this week on Spotify, iTunes, Good Pods, and blah, blah, blah. I know there's a star rating system on all those because I've given us 5 stars. And if you could, do that as well. And write in the description why you love us or why you hate us, just as long as there's 5 stars involved with it. I don't care. And then on Redbubble and Teespring, you can get a t-shirt for the holidays. Crimbus is coming. Somebody wants to wear our things on their bodies. I'm sure of it. So go on there and you can get a clothing with the Nerd Through the Grapevine stuff on it.
I'm sick. If you want me to feel better, you should get on the Facebooks or the Twitter or the Instagram and tell me how you would like for me to get better. And also, that'd be nice to do because you're sweet people. So do that by getting on all those at Nerd Grapevine and then getting on Patreon and donating a little bit to the cause, getting a shiny holographic sticker with the Nerd It Through the Grapevine logo on there, as well as future content that we have not unleashed upon the world. That's on Patreon by looking up Nerd Grapevine. And, just whatever you do, don't play music outdoors and try to just maintain any kind of lung health while singing in 34-degree weather for hours at a time, because if so, that might cause you to experience a little bit of Discord.
We're on Discord.
Nailed it.
And we're also on YouTube.
Those links are in the description of the episode.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm sorry for calling you on sour grapes,
No, you don't have to be sorry.
but
You
I
can
haven't
call
done my
sour
independent
grapes.
research
Be
yet.
wrong. Right.
I might have to go back in time to that particular memory.
It could still be sour grapes because I just looked at the first source that I was given, and I combined that with Austin to think that it would
And
be
Austin,
right.
you don't have a very good track record.
Ooh.
So you should tell me what you do when life gives you sour grapes.
This. You hear that? Hear all that I was just doing? Because that's all that I'll be allowed to do in Marcus's world. He just wants to keep me beaten down. He wants to keep me hurting. He wants to just keep me from succeeding and remembering stuff instead of having to look at my phone to remember stuff. So basically what I would do is I would take those sour grapes and I would do nothing with them because that's all I'm allowed to do with those sour grapes. I might eat them. Maybe sour grapes taste good.
They do taste good. They're the green ones.
Like Sour Patch Kids or
no,
like Warheads?
like sour grapes, like the green ones. I put them in the freezer and they're frozen. They're like little popsicles.
I
but you
thought
can
those
just
were
pop them in the mouth. They're more like
Were those
popsicles
not
than a
cotton-
popsicle because you pop them into your mouth.
Those weren't candy,
and they're
like
delicious.
Cotton candy grapes? Those
No,
weren't
they're
those?
not cotton candy. What the hell is a cotton candy grape?
It's supposed to be a sweet grape. It's green.
Sounds awful. That sounds